Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the Monday, March 21st, 2014 edition of Intelligence Report with a voiceformen.com and shrinkformen.com. I am Dean Esme, Operations Manager of A Voice for Men, as per usual. With me is the notorious reward-offering vigilante, justice seeker, Paul Elam, publisher of A Voice for Men. Say hello, Paul.
Wow, I got introduced first. I can't believe it.
Well, you
Hi, everyone.
complained about it last week. What did you expect?
Whining does work.
It does.
You're learning from the feminists.
Yeah, so say hello, Paul.
Hello, everybody.
And as usual, the amazing total nerd fan of Game of Thrones and shrinkformen.com person, Dr. Tara Palmatier. Say hi, Dr. T.
I could say hi, or I could sing the Reigns of Castamere, your choice.
Oh, nerd. I may make you do that one of these days. All right. So this week we got a lot going on. As it happens, I just got off the phone with a reporter with Sun Media up in Canada who wanted to know something about this strange little reward thing that we're offering, which Paul Elam has an editorial on the page of A Voice for Men regarding. So I expect we're going to be hearing more in the media about this Danielle D'Entremont story. But Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit more about it for those not paying attention?
Okay, well, I don't know how much attention I've been paying. You know, these feminist stories seem to repeat themselves in cycles over and over again. They involve lies, false allegations, and mischaracterization of our movement. But once again, we've been faced with that a couple of weeks back. I don't even remember the exact date. There has been a controversy brewing. First, we should address, there's a controversy at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, not in Jamaica, but they have been trying to de-ratify the men's issues group that started there. And it just so happened that in the middle of this frenetic activity, a woman claimed that she was assaulted by somebody who was an MRA. And her story goes, it's kind of strange, as you would expect, but it goes something like this. She was bashed in the face several times, and apparently whoever did it knew her name and did it because she was pro-feminist and speaking her mind as a woman, which is, of course, we immediately dispatched MRAs to silence her. And one of them apparently showed up and pounded her face in, but it didn't look like it did a whole lot of damage. So naturally, after she was assaulted, the first thing and the most important thing she did was she went to Facebook and got her picture on there and talked about what happened to her. And then sometime later, she informed campus security, even though it did not happen, allegedly, on campus. And the campus police worked with her until she had the courage and bravery to file an official police report. Now, nothing has ever come of this. There's no person of interest, no suspect, nobody's been arrested, there's no names out. She said she'd been getting threatening emails. I don't know anybody that's seen any of them. But what we did, at first, tip of the hat to Men's Rights Canada, they came out first and offered a $1,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of whoever was responsible, if somebody was responsible, for beating this woman up. AVFM matched that amount, and we still, and I'm encouraging other men's rights groups and feminists and anybody who's interested in individual liberties, civil liberties, and free speech to add to that reward pool. Because if somebody is running around bashing people's faces in for speaking their mind, we want to play our role in trying to put a stop to that. To be perfectly frank and honest, I believe this woman's lying. Her story has too many holes in it. There's no evidence. Again, this sort of reminiscent of what happened at the University of Toronto with the demonstration that was there where it was the feminists that were violent, attacking police and harassing people trying to get into Warren Farrell's lecture. And then, of course, in the aftermath of that, the representatives from the University of Toronto Students' Union told the press and the university administration that there were women there in fear for their lives because of the MRAs. And it's really coincidental at Queen's University that this woman pops up with a very suspicious-looking complaint right when they are trying to discredit the men's issues group on that campus. So that's where we stand. We've got Danielle D'Entremont, I don't know how to pronounce her name.
D'Entremont.
Danielle Don't. Let's just leave it at that. And we want to get to the bottom of this. We insist on getting to the bottom of this. I hope that activists will contact the Kingston Police Department and ask for progress on the case. If there's anything they can divulge, I hope people will look for information on this case. If you're in the Kingston area, that you'll try to find out something, because here's the other kicker. There was somebody, and I do not know who it was, launched a petition calling on the Kingston Police Department to conduct a very thorough and transparent investigation into what happened to this young lady. I think like 6 people have signed it. Not even her friends are even talking about this or signing petitions or looking for an answer to this mystery. And again, I find that suspicious. But anyway, that's the story. That's where we're at with this.
There is a petition that has been circulated, and I'm going to make sure we get that in the low bar. We didn't make sure to get that into the show notes, but I will make sure that gets in there by the time we're out after we're done with the hangout today. I want to back up on something Paul just said. He was being highly sarcastic, but he's going to get quote mined, saying that we dispatched somebody to go beat her up. He was being sarcastic. Yeah, and I know because I just got off the phone with the Sue Yanagasawa of Sun Media, who took everything I said extremely literally. So let's make that really clear. We don't actually believe any men's rights activist assaulted her. We don't. I'll say that much. I don't believe any men's rights activist assaulted her. That would be completely out of a character for the movement and everybody we know in it. I'm not quite as convinced as Paul that it was faked, but I will grant him that it sure looks suspicious the way it went down, both the timing and the apparent lack of progress and the, oh, she got approached in the middle of the night, in the dark, by someone who knew her name, who attacked her, and the first thing she does is run home and take a selfie and put it on Facebook. Where's the hospital report? Where's the rest? It looks weird, but hey, it could have gone down that way. I would be shocked if it was a men's rights activist. If it was one, watch us pay that reward and watch us do whatever we can to metaphorically put the motherfucker's head on a spike.
Yeah, let me add to that, Dean. That I mean, and it should go without saying. Again, people are going to quote mine no matter what is said. They're already, the allegation is out there that she was attacked by a men's activist. No proof of it whatsoever. This is old hat. It's repeated stuff. If they want to come quote me, they're welcome to do it. Any reasonable person would not think I was being serious when I said we dispatched somebody. They would see the sarcasm. But the deal is, in all seriousness, that I wasn't kidding about one thing. If there's somebody out there running around beating people up for expressing their ideas that is in this realm that we work in, the men's rights area, the gender political area, we do want to find out who it is and identify them and lock their ass up. I'll throw the son of a bitch, whoever it is, under the bus as far as I can get them if it turns out that is the case. I just don't happen to believe that it is.
Either way, the reward now stands at $2,000, and we have an open challenge to any feminist group to match that $2,000 or $1,000. Hell, they've got 20 times the money we do, at least, most of them. If they're so interested. I mean, I believe what Paul says. I mean, Allison Tiemann came up with the phrase, and it's perfect. It's called the threat narrative. They've created a false threat narrative about us for, 5 years now, that we're violent. No matter how many times we eschew violence, no matter how many times we make it clear we don't approve of violence, no matter how many times we throw off anybody for even hinting at violence, which such minor things as I'll kick your ass or I hope you get punched in the face, we don't even put up with that. You know, we get told all the time we're scary and we're dangerous, and now conveniently, supposedly an unidentified man has beaten up a feminist activist. Well, we want to know who that was. We really do want to know. And if it was one of us, we're going to throw them under the bus. If it wasn't one of us, great. We helped get a thug off the street. If it was a feminist looking to make a point, we'll be happy to throw them under the bus too. Violence is just not acceptable, period. And we put our money where our mouth is. Does Jacqueline Friedman? Does, you know, Canada Now? Does, I'm thinking of some names here, Amanda Marcotte? Any of these people? They're going to put anything up? Dave Futrell, hey, will you match our $1,000? Come on, Dave.
Come on, man, boobsy.
Come on, put up $1,000. We could take the 3,000 right now. We can see who did this. I bet if anybody did it, it was one of your fans. But you know, why don't we do whatever we can to find out? Not sure what else to say. Tara, got any commentary on this?
Well, my theory is, and I could be entirely wrong, I have to wonder, this is Canada, it's wintertime, there's ice, I wonder if Ms. D'Entremont slipped on the ice, chipped a tooth, seized the opportunity, and made up a false attack report.
It's spring there. I don't know what the weather was, but that's certainly one.
Wasn't she? But no, well, it's spring there now, but when the attack happened, it was still winter, was it not?
Only about a week and a half ago. So
I thought it was a while ago for some reason. Anyway, no. I doubt very much she was attacked. I think it was either some accident or self-inflicted.
We even have it on very good authority of people who've been there that battered women's shelters in Canada and parts of the United States will frequently put makeup on women so that they can take photos and make it look like they got beaten up so they can get an advantage in divorce court. We've seen it. We've had
that woman from Michigan did that recently, who had made who was the serial false rape accuser.
So the presumption that no woman would do this is wrong. This does not make Danielle guilty of that either. But we just want to know the truth. And I've actually said it. If Danielle came forth and confessed and told who put her up to it, that would show a hell of a lot more courage than most feminists would have. But anyway, yeah, if there's any number of plausible explanations for those injuries, I find the least plausible one a men's rights activist. I've been doing this a long time. I've never seen less violent people.
Well, at this point, I wouldn't put it past many feminists to injure themselves and make up a false report. I mean, you see this happen in domestic violence cases, as you said. You know, to get the guy out of the house, women injure themselves, make the 911 call. Maybe she truly was attacked, but it could have been a rogue guy who identifies as a men's rights activist. But even if it was, as both of you have said, it's not somebody who anyone wants in the movement. It's a peaceful movement, nonviolent.
That's right.
Obsessively so. And I think part of that is a natural reaction to all the allegations, but there is,
did Danielle claim that her alleged attacker was yelling "AVFM forever" when he?
No.
What she claimed was that she got email threats regarding her activism, and her activism.
And has she published any of these threats?
Trying to de-ratify the men's group there.
Yeah, no emails have been published, so we don't know what they said or what they're about. I will say there was one feminist who I happen to know who's kind of an anarchist and on the fringe. She's not even really associated with the RadFem crowd. She's just kind of a feminist anarchist. She jumped in and said, "I'll help." So there was one.
There was one.
I won't even name her because she'd probably rather I didn't. But she's not liked by mainstream feminists or the RadFems. But that was one. But she doesn't want any money. She's just got, resources. She'll look into it if we can get the emails. So Danielle, we got an open offer from a feminist. If you go forward with the emails, we can find out who that came from. But I think that's the only one we'll hear from, because I predict no feminist group will have the balls to help with this effort.
They don't want an answer in this. The story stinks. The feminists are concerned about what the result's going to be if there is a thorough and transparent investigation into what happens, and so they're not going to touch it.
Well, they're going to accuse us now of harassing poor Danielle. Well,
by what? By offering a reward for her alleged attacker? Yeah, that's real harassment.
Yeah, no lie. All right, well, we'll see what's going to happen there. I'm going to predict nothing happens, but I hope Danielle has the courage to step up and do the right thing. And by the right thing, I mean what she knows to be the right thing. Go tell the truth and cooperate with the police. That would be the right thing. Whatever the truth is, she knows it more than anybody else does. So.
Well, also a thank you to Men's Rights Canada and to ABFM would probably be something else to do. Most people, most crime victims don't get groups to start coughing up money to go after their perpetrators.
That's right. All right, now another interesting story caught my eye this week, and I don't know why it, well, I guess I know why it caught my eye. It's on LiveLeak, which has all sorts of interesting things. There's a female lawyer in, holy cow, I can't remember what town this was in. Was it Atlanta?
No, it was in New Orleans, wasn't it?
New Orleans, yeah, New Orleans. It's a fascinating 3-minute video that got released to the public. New Orleans lawyer Jennifer Galbert, age 33, was going after a cabbie, Harvey Farrell, age 39. I don't know if either of you got to watch that 3.5-minute video, but it's...
I did.
Very
I saw her underwear.
What's yeah, and what she was doing was, I don't even want to use the word shocking, because if you're informed about these issues, this behavior is not all that uncommon. But people believe it's uncommon, but you don't get video too often, and here is this woman playing the role of essentially, well, you'd normally call it a creepy pedophile or a creepy rapist or whatever. She is just, and more or less wheedling and whining and begging this guy to feel her up and to touch her coochie, and he just, for 3 solid minutes, is like, no, please, no, I really don't want to, please, no, I have a girlfriend, I'm very faithful to her, no, 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 and she won't take no for an answer, and she just keeps whining like I'm imagining, if I were a guy, just imagine me sitting there saying, come on, please touch it, while I'm holding it out there. A creepy thing you would see from any normal number of movies. And it's, I'll go back to the research I've done and the researchers I've talked to about female sexual misconduct, and this sort of thing isn't uncommon, actually, but it's portrayed like it's extraordinarily weird and rare, and I don't believe that it is.
Well, how often have you seen a man caught on videotape with this same identical behavior? It's not something that's captured very often.
No.
To me, the problem here is the potential in the situation for rapey lawyer lady. What if this guy? I mean, we suggested. If you're some guy like Sean Hannity, you want all women to carry guns, and the moment a guy gets inappropriate, you can pull out a gun and blow his brains out. What would have happened if this guy would not have been so passive? If he would have defended himself the way that we would justify a woman defending herself, by pulling out a can of mace and giving her an eyeful of that, or pulling out a taser and zapping her, or planting an elbow in her face, which he easily could have done from the position that he was in. What I'm getting out of this, watching that video, is that a guy in that situation, he's just trapped. Because if he does get violent with her, and if what she was doing was a sexual assault, and if he defended himself from that, bye-bye, he's going to be locked up. And she would have been the victim.
I don't. I hate to keep going back. Well, no, I don't hate to keep going back to this. It feels like I do it a lot. We had a great show with Phil Cook on when women sexually abuse men. Me and Aaron Pitsey, and Aaron talked about a particular woman that she knew, because Aaron, of course, has been around and known a lot of dysfunctional people, male and female alike, right? She's talking about one woman she knew whose favorite pastime was to travel coach overnight on trains or airplanes, put a blanket, find some strange man to share a blanket with, and then reach under and start fondling him and jacking him off. And if he objected, she could stand up and slap him in the face. So she got a real sense of thrill and power out of making strange men ejaculate on airplanes, and she got an extra good thrill knowing she would always get away with it. And people don't believe that can happen. And I'm like, here I'm watching this video, and I'm like, this can't be the first time this woman has behaved this way. This is just the first time she's gotten caught on tape. It's what I would guess anyway. Maybe not. Maybe this was a one-time fluke. She didn't look all that drunk. She didn't look all that high. And here she is behaving as a sexual predator. I don't like the word deviant much, but I mean, and I don't even like the word creepy much, but if that wasn't creepy, I don't know what the fuck is.
We need a "Don't Be That Rapey Lawyer Lady" poster campaign.
I guess it's just until we start seeing sexual assault as a human problem rather than a fucking man-on-woman problem or a man-on-man problem, but as a human problem, things aren't going to get better, are they?
Well, but you know, women criminals and felons and sex offenders, they do those things because of trauma issues and social influences. And you know, men who do those things, it's because they think like criminals and engage in antisocial behaviors.
Yeah. Okay. I know you're being sarcastic. I'm just going to point out for the audience that multiple studies have actually confirmed that male rapists and males who commit sexual assault, the majority of them were sexually molested in some way in childhood. Actually, a majority of males were molested in some way in childhood by a female. But in any case, yeah, that's the thinking, right? If a man does something like this, it's because he's a man and masculinity is toxic. And if it's a woman who does this, it's because some man did something to her. That's the mentality, right?
Well, it's not just the mentality, and we don't have to segue right now, but this is the premise of an argument to start giving preferential treatment to female prisoners.
That same argument was made, I mean, a couple of years ago, and they're still working on it in Great Britain, the idea of abandoning penitentiaries for women altogether. The feeling is that women should be sentenced to community service. I mean, there's women there that murder people, and if you don't have a prison to put them in, that would seem to me to be putting the community at risk, but what do I know?
This is a pretty good segue. Yes, we have seen multiple stories in the news about, in the UK particularly, efforts to, instruct judges to give women an easier time, because, women technically, women tend to commit crimes because of psychological trauma. And so judges should be made to understand that. Because male criminals, what's that got to do with anything? Women commit crimes because they have mental trouble, right?
Or substance abuse issues, or trauma issues, or relationship issues, and they fell in with the wrong man who got them to do bad things.
And the sad part for it is, for me, is I actually do think that in most cases, not all, but in most cases, habitual offenders, at least low-level offenders, probably would benefit from some kind of, substance abuse treatment programs and things like that instead of long-term incarceration. But that's a different argument. Giving that not only to women is a free pass for misbehavior for women. And it's a continuation of this horrible narrative about men that just doesn't make any sense. And it's not just the British, is it? Yeah, out of Seattle, for example. Now, this story's about a year old, but it's timeless because we see this all the time. Hell,
last November, actually, so about 6 months old, I think.
Oh, it's only 6 months old. Well, then it's all the more timely. But that's all right. If you read some of Robert St. Estephe's work on A Voice for Men, we got stories going back 100 years like this. Women behind bars. Hate takes a new approach. Faced with a rising incarceration rate among women and no space to house them, the state prison system has embraced a university. You read this story, Tara. Tell us about it.
Okay, so this is a story that somebody posted on the Shrink for Men Facebook page a couple of days ago. And the news item begins with a quote from a former female inmate of some Washington state prison who was in there for murdering her parents 30 years ago. And she was bemoaning the fact that 30 years ago, women's prisons were sort of treated as, juvenile detention centers, and they called it patty cake treatment, which I expect means that, it wasn't like what you would typically envision as let's say, a male prison experience. And that over the last 30 years, the prison industry has had a mandate, basically, to treat all inmates the same, whether they're male or female. In other words, equal treatment! Equal treatment.
Poor girl.
Yeah, so there is a professor, I don't know if she is a feminist or not, from the University of Cincinnati, a professor, Janet von Voorhees, who conducted a longitudinal study, but of course the article did not link to the study so that I could check out its methodology. I don't know if this was a case study. I don't know if she employed good scientific method, control groups. Don't know what she did, so we don't know how valid the study may be, but apparently what the article did say is that she traveled the country for a decade interviewing female inmates on every aspect of their lives, and she is insisting that Washington State implement what is called a gender responsiveness action plan based on her research.
GRAP?
G-rap.
Okay.
But if you take away that little line at the bottom of the G, yeah, it would be a C, and then you get crap. So basically, women, we want equal treatment. This is a feminist battle cry, except apparently when it comes to incarceration.
Or custody.
Or custody. Then they don't want equal treatment. And so from what I could gather reading the article, which I was just like sometimes it feels like you've gone through the looking glass, and up is down and down is up and white is black and black is white and day is night. And so I'm reading this, and first of all, they're alarmed that for the last 3 years or 2 years, the rate of female incarceration is growing at a much higher rate than male incarceration. Again, equality. And I think too that the prison industry complex is figuring out there's also money to be made in incarcerating women, just as there is money to be made in incarcerating men. But the main gripe seems to be that there are people who are pissed off that female prisoners are being treated like male prisoners are treated. As I stated earlier, and I was being sarcastic, but this is actually what they're claiming, that female criminals turn to violence and other crimes because they have mental health issues, they've been in bad relationships, have social influences and trauma, and then claim that most men end up in jail because of criminal thinking and antisocial behavior. But let's get real. Criminal thinking and antisocial behavior, whether it's being conducted by a man or a woman, probably does have to do with things like education, socioeconomic level, coming from a dysfunctional, broken family, not having opportunities or substance abuse. I don't think men and women are so very different in this. And the other thing I thought was just priceless is that they're wanting to do this so that they can lower the recidivism rate for female inmates, because if Janet Voorhees, the professor, said if women go back out there and reoffend, then we should hold the state responsible because they didn't rehabilitate them. Yeah.
But my brain is just so full of fuck because, of course, we know the recidivism rate for men is also sky high, but that's not a concern.
Going like,
The recidivism, I mean, prisons are overcrowded for men, so we need more prisons for men. Prisons are overcrowded for women. We need to do some more to help.
Right, and not just giving more therapy groups to women and opportunities to get education in prison. They're also insisting that female prisoners be given fruity scented shampoo, better bras for women who have had mastectomies, cosmetics, better clothing, because in order for them to feel good about themselves, they have to look good. And in one of these prisons, they actually have a woman living there with her 5-month-old child. Where's the father of this kid? And did he want custody? And what judge said, no, we'll let mom take the baby to prison. And better yet, why if father isn't an option, how about foster care? Oh, and this is her 5th kid by age 25. So this.
How many dads have their kids in prison with them? I'm just curious.
I'm gonna guess none.
I'm gonna guess none, but you never know. Maybe someone will write in with the one story. I don't know.
Anywhere in the world.
Yeah, probably nowhere. Anywhere in the world, we'd like to hear about that.
Yeah, and let me be clear. I'm not against prisoners being rehabilitated. I think that is necessary, but I don't think. It seems to me that this Janet Voorhees has essentially written off the male prison population and is saying, well, we need to do our best to help women prisoners. But it's like, well, what about men? They need education. If they've had trauma and issues and other mental health issues, they need treatment and help as well. But it's sort of this. It just seems like another. Women can't be bad. If they've done bad things, it's because they've had bad things happen to them, and we have to take care of them and protect them. And if we can't fix them, then it's the state's fault. I mean,
it's just misogyny.
It's completely.
It's low expectation. It is absolutely not recognizing the agency of women, their status as an independent human being. I got to say, in one way, yeah, I mean, United States has 5% of the world's population and 25% of the world's prisoners. There's something just like insane about that to begin with, but that is a different subject, as Dean was saying. But this is why, when people, ask me, God, why are you guys so harsh? Why are you guys so harsh? When it comes to our view of men and women, 98% of the people on this planet are out of their fucking minds. There is no doubt in my mind whatsoever that when you can take a scientist with a second PhD in philosophy, for Pete's sake, and the most rational, thoughtful, logical person in the world, and 98% of those guys, once you get them near a woman, their brain turns to jello. And our whole men and women both do this.
I'll tell you.
We go into this chasm, this pit of irrationality, and people, normal, intelligent people, will sit there and read a newspaper about how, well, when men do bad things, it's because they're shit, and when women do bad things, it's because men are shit. And they'll go, oh, okay, and they'll buy that stuff without even thinking about it, and you try to talk to them, and it's like this. It's like trying to talk to a holy roller about Buddhism. You're not going to get anywhere. And that's why I just figured years ago we pull out all the stops at ABFM because we are dealing with a human species that when it comes, that's capable of tremendous greatness. But when it comes to sexual politics and the relationships between men and women, how we see each other, personal agency, things like that, we're out of our minds as a species. And this is absolute proof of it.
I didn't add this to the show notes, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it now, and I'm going to retroactively put it in the show notes, and it'll be in the low bar and on ABFM. This goes right to what Robert Franklin wrote about this weekend, and, you know, Jeffrey Toobin, a writer for The New Yorker, one of the big swank New York publications, actually managed to bang out a piece on horrible conditions in a prison where female prison guards are regularly using men in there for sex and selling drugs to them, and managed to get all the way around to referring to it as cynical and devious male inmates abusing their poor mace-wielding, armed, handcuff-wielding female prison guards. Because
so the people with the badges and the guns are the victims.
Are the victims.
The people in the cage are the perpetrators.
That's right. That's right. And because especially out of the hundreds of men that were so abused, they found one dude who was like kind of proud of it because he'd somewhat, you know, flipped the tables on them a little and was making out okay on the cash situation while he was in jail by being forced to fuck these girls. Of course, if he refused to fuck them, Jeffrey Toobin doesn't want to explore that little angle, nor does he want to explore the hundreds of others. No, this guy was kind of proud because he was making some money selling dope for the prison guards that he was cynically manipulating. These butterfly angel women just helpless before his massive macho sexuality. Oh yeah, by the way, he's black, so we get to play with that too, right? Obviously, it's the big bad oversexed Negro who's got these women in his thrall, right? They're fucking prison guards, you motherfuckers. People are insane. People are insane. They're just insane. Yeah, look for it. It's on the AVFM right now. The New Yorker's Jeffrey Toobin. Cynical and devious male inmates abused female guards.
It's a blistering good article, by the way.
Oh, it is. All props to Robert Franklin, who, by the way, will be at the Men and Boys Conference in June in Detroit. I cannot wait to shake his hand in person and hear what he's got to say about the legal system. He's the former editor of the Houston Law Review, is he not? Or the
yes, he is. He's from my local area. I have met Robert and spoken with him in person, and I can assure you at the conference he'll deliver in good fashion talking about the corruption of family law in this country.
No, the family law, yeah. I mean, a family law, yeah. We probably won't even bother to get to the prison industrial complex, but I mean, holy fuck, how deep does it go? Yeah. Well, we've been going about 40 minutes. What else should we talk about, or should we start wrapping this up?
Do we have any...
I got some things for closing, but I'm not ready to go yet. I'm still pissed off at the human race for being so stupid.
What were you going to say, Tara?
Do we have any questions or comments on the comment tracker, Paul?
Let's see.
If the commenters are like me, they're just so dumbfounded at the stupid, it's painful. Let's see.
Here's one. Let's take a look at this.
Okay.
From somebody we know. And what it says here, and it'll stay up as long as I'm talking, in Karen Strawn, that name's familiar. In Afghanistan, women's prisons don't have bars, they have doors and education skills training, and mothers can have their young children live in prison with them. I don't imagine the men have it quite so well, do they? Hi, Karen.
Hey, Karen.
I'm going to guess not.
That even gets into something else that it has become fashionable among somewhat forward-thinking people to start saying things like, look, women don't have a problem here in places like the U.S. and Canada. Stop it. Get real. Look what's going on in horrible places like Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia. But it suffers from the same bias. They refuse to look at the special rights and special protections and special privileges that women have even in those. Hell, Afghanistan, I have at least one friend still living in Afghanistan. I've known me some Afghans. That country is basically a Bronze Age country in terms of most of the, a rich man's got a mule, you know, and the conditions for men there are brutal, but all we can see is where it's tough for women.
And I can tell you one thing, that even with the limited connectivity of Pakistan, we get traffic from there at A Voice for Men.
Of course we do. Because men are, I mean, male disposability, you want to talk about the disposable sex, I mean, holy shit. I had one feminist literally tell me that Afghans treat their women like dogs, and to which I had said, you know, if you said that to your average Afghan woman, she would just rip your eyeballs out, right? You know that, don't you? But of course, no, she doesn't know that. Stupid beyond belief is what that statement is. Yes, women have strong restrictions on them. Men have strong burdens and responsibilities and get to die. You know, they're the only ones allowed to do that.
And plenty of restrictions on them. I mean, the idea that men don't have restrictions on them in the Middle East is absolutely insane. Nobody that understands a thing about Middle Eastern culture, and I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I know enough to know that the gender roles there are rigid in many cases, which is confining and abusive to both sides of the coin like it is anywhere else. You got it.
That's right. And so if you're seeking real reform in that region, you've got to actually look at where both sexes have it shitty and let them decide among themselves what they think makes sense and what they think doesn't. Hell, even just sitting there saying, why do they give an education to the boys and not the girls? It's not quite true anymore, but, oh, because the boy is expected to provide for his family, and the girl is not. The girl is expected, you know, has the right to a husband to do that for her. So of course they have their priorities a certain way. Should everybody get an education? Of course, but you don't start by not looking at the whole picture, or you're not going to make things better. You're going to make things worse with your, oh, I'll just go ahead and say it, your Western liberal imperialist condescension. How's that for a mouthful?
Well, if we let you have your way, Dean, there'll be McDonald's on every corner in Pakistan.
Well, that's another idea entirely, but it's just thunderingly stupid. What were you going to say, Tara?
But there's a logic in that. If either sex isn't going to go out and work to support themselves and a family, then, you know, education, it costs money to educate a child or an adult. So why spend those resources on educating individuals who are not going to go out into the workforce? And again, cherry pickers, I'm not saying that I don't think men and women or girls and boys should be educated equally, but if that's not the reality of their culture, if girls aren't likely to go out into the workforce, then why spend the money educating them? I mean, I think that should change, but I mean, you can see it here. I see it all the time. I've got guys I work with whose wives have, you know, $150,000 of student loan debt, don't work, won't work, refuse to work, have kids. So what exactly, why the fuck did they need a college education to sit at home, drive kids to school in the morning, pick them up in the afternoon when it's their husbands who are going out and doing the work to support the family? And by the way, paying off their student loan debts that they're not using.
There's an amazing article. It's one of our standing articles on A Voice for Men by Ali Mehraspand, who's an Iranian, so that's not the same thing as Afghanistan, but it's culturally very similar, very much like that part of the world, and it's a commonplace thing, according to him, in Iran for women to have multiple college degrees and to not only never have a job, but to have absolutely no desire to get a job after they just go to school because they want to. Huge debt gets racked up because they want to, and then they, by law, are expected to be supported and have no desire to go into the workplace because by law they will be supported by their husbands or their fathers. So if they refuse to go to work and they don't manage to get married, it's on their dads. There's 80-year-old men driving cabs and still out working to support their daughters who don't get married and won't get a job. Their daughters who have multiple college degrees up to the PhD level.
Mm-hmm.
That shit's going on. And, oh, but women in the Middle East, we got to fix that.
Let's take a brief look too at men in the Middle East, and we can use Iran for an example. During the Iran-Iraq War, one of the things that happened there is, that was a bloody, desperate conflict. What many times happened in the battlefield was that the Iranians would send boys, many of them without weapons, 10, 11, 12 years old, in waves at Iraqi defenses, and then measure where they got mowed down the most in order to determine where their strength was, and then come up and attack from that. That's documented fact. That's the role of boys in the Middle East in many ways. And I mean, and it's not like I'm saying there's anything so different here. I mean, we've gotten kids killed for hundreds of years in wars. But before people go off the deep end too much about women's rights in places like Iran, they at least might want to take a little bit of a look at the life of men.
Yeah, yeah. Is that so much to ask? There's one guy I fight with on Twitter once in a while. Of course, he's with Free Thought Blog, so that'll tell you something. But he's real proud of the fact that he's in India, and he can really assure me that in India, women have it much worse than men. And, you know, it turns out he's actually from the Middle East, not India, and he was actually raised as a child in England, and now he's there as a med student. But he's an expert on what the...
He lied to you?
I don't think he lied to me. He just pretends that he knows what life is for the average Indian man, even though he's not from India. He's just a medical student there. But he can assure me that women have it worse there because, yeah, okay, we have some Indian men's rights activists who would like to take issue with you.
Quite a few of them, actually.
Quite a few of them, actually. And but whatever. Now we're probably wandering too far to go back. It's the same thing in this country as it is anywhere else. If you're going to say women have it bad, fine. Nobody's going to argue with you necessarily. But if you're not looking at the male side of the equation, you are leaving half the equation out. And if all you've got to say is patriarchy, you're a dumbass and a bigot. That's my opinion anyway. So, now we're at 50 minutes and really ought to start wrapping things up.
We probably ought to.
Thank you for that comment, Karen. You're going to be in Detroit, aren't you? We're expecting to see you. In fact, she's promised a video to us, so now I'm going to call her out publicly. She's promised a video to promote the conference, where we will also be seeing Dr. Warren Farrell, Aaron Titsey, Dr. Paul Nathanson, Senator Ann Cools,
Dr. Miles Groth,
Robert
Darnell Smith, Barbara Kay,
yeah,
Tara Palmatier, John Hembling, Mike Buchanan. Some guy named Paul's going to speak there too.
And of course, the most important reason to be there is that I will be there. I won't be doing anything in particular, but I will be there, so that alone.
Oh, speaking of calling people out in public, if you want to see Dean Esme in a suit, come to the conference.
Oh, shit. Right. Making me wear a suit. The oppressive patriarch.
How are you doing at getting Eminem to perform?
I'm working on it.
I am the real Slim Shady. Now.
I swear by the old gods and the new, I'm working on it.
Lannister always pays your debts.
Game of Thrones. We might have to have a Game of Thrones intelligence report once he's got caught up. That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Let me run by a couple of items, Dean, before we do close up. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be going on to Robert O'Hara's ABFM news program on Live 365. We're going to be talking a lot more in detail, not only about the conference. We're going to dedicate half my time there to that. The other half of the time we're going to spend talking about May 31st in Ellsworth, Maine. For those of you who have followed ABFM for a while, you know that the story of bladder filler is one of the most egregious travesties of justice that we have advocated for, and it's by far the longest case. We've been working with this case for 5 years, doing advocacy in one way or another in his horrible treatment by the Ellsworth prosecutor's office. Finally, Mary Kellett, the prosecutor that managed to find a rapist a week in a population of 60,000 in Hancock and Washington counties, was sent for disciplinary action for her misconduct. There is an election coming in Maine, and I will be going there on the 31st of May, and I'm really happy. This is sort of like even some a little bit of maybe, hopefully, some closure for me on this. I'll be able to stand on the steps to Mary Kellett's office and stand with other local politicians and speakers on the subject of justice. It's hosted by an organization called Equity for Maine. We're expecting a really good turnout and media to be there, and there will be a number of speakers calling on the people of Hancock and Washington counties to get rid of this corrupt, morally bankrupt cadre of prosecutors that has been running rampant on that community year after year after year with a string of cases that are like bladder fillers. So we're going to be talking about that tomorrow night a lot too. Also, Friday, I just recently interviewed Janet Bloomfield, also known as Judgy Bitch, and it was a real fun interview. And then when we got done, she turned around and said, well, I want to interview you. And she sent me some questions, and some questions I'm not going to get till she does it. But 4 o'clock Eastern time, Friday, right here, we're going to have Judgy Bitch interviewing me, and then in the weeks to come, she's going to be interviewing a lot of people that are with ABFM and some speakers that are coming to the conference Friday after Friday until we have the conference, so that you can get to know a lot more of these people. Part of them will be Dean Esme. I'm sure Dr. T will get an invitation. I know Tom Golden will get an invitation, but Judgy Bitch wants to bitch at all of us, and we're going to let her. So looking forward to doing that.
I could probably give her a run for her bitching money, but we'll see.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Depends what side of the bed I wake up on that day.
Oh, man, okay. And I'm trying to make a sexual double entendre, and nothing's right now. But anyway,
You're
all right.
just quick-witted enough to get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, no lie. Anything else you want to add, Tara?
Paul, when you're in Maine, don't jaywalk. Obey all traffic signals.
Don't let her.
Count to 3 when you come to a stop sign. Make sure you are fully stopped. Make sure that your taillights aren't broken. Don't spit in public. Some states have public spitting laws. ABR. And if for some strange reason you find yourself in a room alone with Mary Kellett, look for the nearest exit.
I won't offer her a cup of coffee.
Safety first.
Good idea. Do not offer her coffee, whatever you do.
Or a glass of water.
Or a glass of water. All right, listen. If you are in an abusive relationship or think you might be with a woman, please check out shrinkformen.com and seek out the services of Dr. Tara Palmatier, who specializes in these things. If you're interested in men's and boys' issues in general with a genuine caring and compassion for men with humanist values, please see the front pages of avoiceformen.com, where something exciting is always happening. And see you here next week, everybody. Good night.